Welcome to Building Birmingham Together, a show about Birmingham's business leaders' successes, failures, and lessons learned to encourage you to remember that dreaming is free, but the hustle is sold separately. I'm your host, Kim Lee, founder and CEO of Forge. Today, we have joining us Haley Kendrick, Director of Bronze Valley Accelerator Program. Haley was with the Director of Programs at Innovate Birmingham for 3 years and just recently made the switch to Bronze Valley to launch the start of their Gener8tor Accelerator program. The Bronze Valley Accelerator, a Gener8tor beta program, accelerates the growth of early stage companies through network-driven program. The Bronze Valley Accelerator focuses on supporting female entrepreneurs and entrepreneurs of color. Since launching in 2015, the G-Beta program alumni have raised $111 million plus in capital and created over 1,000 jobs across the United States and Canada. Building Birmingham Together is brought to you today by Forge. Forge is Birmingham's first professional co-working space located in the heart of downtown Birmingham at the Pizitz Building with private offices, open workspace, as well as meeting and event space. Forge is the place where business owners and entrepreneurs come together, meet new people, and get work done. If you'd like to find out more about Forge, you can visit workatforge.com. So Haley, we are so glad to have you here today. And I know that the first cohort just finished, so I cannot wait to hear all about it.
Yeah, thanks for having me. I'm really excited to be here.
Yeah, absolutely. So, two big things that that I want to hear about today that I want to share with our listeners. One is to learn about this new program that Bronze Valley, the accelerator program that they have just launched, and why it's what it is and why it's so important to Birmingham. And then also from you have such a great perspective from being with Innovate Birmingham for so long, or for 3 years, and now having worked with 5 different founders of these companies, and that's not something new that you've done. So just sort of lessons you've learned and why this is so important for Birmingham. But before we get into all of that, I would love to know just a little bit about your background and what gets you excited about doing this work.
Yeah, absolutely. That's always a little bit of a challenging question because
It's
probably,
very loaded, I
yeah,
realize. So,
probably like a lot of folks had a meandering journey to where I am. But I, before Innovate Birmingham, I'll start there. I
yeah.
was kind of in the academic world. So I was finishing my PhD at UAB, but when I started Innovate Birmingham, I had studied sociology and specifically medical sociology in grad school, really interested in some of the social causes and consequences of all the policies and opportunities that we have in our community. So specifically, I was looking at how that affected health, specifically mental health and well-being, and really kept seeing, it really comes down to access to opportunities around education, jobs, capital, and those sort of things. So if you're following that thread, that led me to really get interested in job training opportunities, connecting more folks to those opportunities to get those high wage jobs. And then once maybe following the entrepreneurship track, getting the capital and business to grow. So started working with Innovate Birmingham right before I finished grad school and stayed there for the last 3 years and had a really wonderful opportunity to get involved there and learn a lot that was going on in the tech ecosystem. And then had been aware of what was going on in Bronze Valley throughout that time, supporting underrepresented founders. And so really excited to be able to grow in this way, where moving on from just connecting people to the skills and jobs to the capital and the technical assistance to grow their businesses and create more jobs.
Right. Okay. So really briefly, just in case people don't know, can you tell me what Innovate Birmingham is doing?
Yeah. So Innovate Birmingham is a IT tech workforce training program. So they offer free training in high demand, high skill tech jobs, for example, data analytics and software development, and also professional development skills, and then connect folks who go through those programs to employers to facilitate job placement. So those are for the most part, full-time boot camp training opportunities that are free, and
Wow.
then connect with employers usually through an interview. Now that's all done via Zoom, but
Yep.
opportunities to interview, and up and through before COVID, I'm not sure where it is now, but we're seeing about 70% of graduates get placed in IT careers.
Oh, wow. And so who are the students who come into Innovate Birmingham?
Yeah, so primarily the focus based on the Department of Labor grant that kicked off Innovate Birmingham are Central Alabama residents. So that's folks in Jefferson County and then the 5 counties surrounding Jefferson County as well. And they are either un or underemployed. And so unemployed is pretty clearly defined. Underemployed is either working less than 40 hours a week. It may be in a job without a lot of opportunity for growth. And so we have a number of career changers who may have been in one career and then making a jump after their jobs are changing a lot, especially in the current climate. Some jobs won't be the same after this. So a lot of people entering for those opportunities.
Mm-hmm. So it's such an, you think about pipelines and how you change cultures, how you get new people in the workforce, and Innovate Birmingham is an amazing program for a pipeline to bring in people who may not have access to that kind of education through school or college, but it's bringing a whole new generation of people, diverse people into our workforce, which only makes companies and businesses better, brings new perspective. So I think the work that they're doing at Innovate Birmingham is amazing. And I remember when I saw that you switched over to Bronze Valley, I wanted to hear the story. Like what led you to change from that work to Bronze Valley? So why don't you tell us just a little bit about what Bronze Valley is doing? And then I'd love to hear, what made you want to change over?
Yeah. Bronze Valley started about the same time as Innovate Birmingham in, I believe it's spring 2018 with a kickoff conference, and then have been really on the ground doing the work since then. So Bronze Valley is a nonprofit venture capital firm investing in companies founded by underrepresented founders, primarily Black and female founders. So we made our first investment in 2018 in Mixtros, who I believe is a friend of Forge.
Yes, so, I did not know that was your first investment. Oh my goodness. Yep. Okay. Yes, so, we love Mixtros at Forge.
Yeah, they have made a ton of really great progress and continue to grow and get a lot of great press. So there are a lot of people recognize in here. So they were our first investment and then have grown. This fall made our 9th investment in Acclinate, who participated in the accelerator as well, who you mentioned before in the pitch night. And so we are hoping to about double our portfolio size over the next year or two as we continue to make investments. So really excited about the opportunities to continue to grow and support more companies there and expand what we can do in addition to just investment, but also technical assistance. So some of the top tier VC firms in Silicon Valley or New York, in addition to investing in companies that are 90 or more % white male usually.
Yep.
They also get access to technical experts that can help them grow their business. So this is a huge advantage. So we have created what we call C-Suite on Demand, which is something we're piloting with the accelerator, but we're hoping to make available to all our portfolio companies and perhaps more broadly, where we have a number of experts in the Birmingham or Alabama area that have agreed to give their time for that offering to support those companies. So that's what Bronze Valley's been doing up until this year. And then at the beginning of this year, started working with Gener8tor, which is a national accelerator program in the top tier of accelerators nationwide, and brought in Gener8tor's G-Beta program to launch Bronze Valley Accelerator. So that's where I come in. I kind of sit in between the two organizations and work for Gener8tor to lead that accelerator program. So what that looks like is a 7-week part-time accelerator that's free for companies. We don't take any equity. And we work with them over 7 weeks to really work on whatever's a priority for them. We're pretty tailored in our approach, and with a small cohort of only 5, that allows us to really give specific one-on-one support based on what their goals are and where they are. And then over the first 6 weeks, connect them to over 30 mentors. And then in the 7th week, we do an investor swarm where we connect them to about 30 investors each, where they pitch their business, and then really hoping to catalyze fundraising and entry into an equity-based accelerator that would come with funding following our program.
Mm-hmm. So tell me okay, I have so many questions because I think there's so many things. It's hard to boil it all down to one. So first question is, just tell me why you think and the passion that you have behind what Bronze Valley is doing is so important, especially here in Birmingham.
Yeah, there are a lot of answers to that. I feel
Yeah.
like the ones
Sorry.
that it's helpful. I need to be better about like, this is the answer, but
no, it is a loaded question,
yeah.
but
one for me, it's personally, it's just something that really aligns with my passion and values. So was really core to the work we did at Innovate Birmingham of making a more inclusive tech ecosystem. One, because of the focus of value of equity and inclusion. So we have a huge disproportionate rate of folks in entrepreneurship, in tech, and that receive VC that are white and male. I believe just about 10% of all venture capital across the nation goes to women and people of color combined. So that leaves 90% going to white men, which is just not representative. And if you have a value of equity and inclusion, that just doesn't align. So that's one thing on the personal kind of value side. But also, it makes sense, like financially and for business. So diverse teams tend to bring back more returns to their investors. They tend to outperform in revenue and have a lot of opportunity to grow, not to mention the growing segment of the market that is non-white. So there's just a lot of business sense opportunity there that we should be partaking in. Specifically for Birmingham and Alabama, we have such a diverse population to not be accessing that through entrepreneurship, tech jobs like Innovate Birmingham's doing, and some of those other ways just to harness our capital and our natural advantage here. We're missing out. And that's one huge potential opportunity we have to set us apart here. Mm-hmm. And if we don't take it, we're just hurting ourselves. And so both kind of mission alignment side and values that I think, are non-debatable, but also the hard facts of just the performance and opportunity there.
Yeah. So how has it been received? I guess more Bronze Valley. Well, in the accelerator program, how has it been received in the Birmingham community?
We have had such an outpouring of support. So really early on, I believe there was excitement generated around the conference, and then the work that the team has done up to this point has just been moving along and working and growing, but has been a little under the radar. So not a lot of outward facing public things until this accelerator. And so as we announced this earlier this year, we've had a kind of a resurgence of that outpouring of support, particularly in a couple ways. So one, we have our public events, whether that's our lunch and learns that we do during the program and our pitch night, which we've had a ton of Birmingham folks participate in. And then we also have had a ton of mentors that have volunteered their time to give advice to these startups and connect them with folks. And that is something right now, there's a lot of different activity between existing programs and new accelerators. And so our mentors are kind of pulled in a lot of directions. And so the fact that they would give their time for nothing tangible and immediate in return is something we really value and appreciate. And it's been so important to what we've been able to do so far.
Yeah, because I know, from all that I've heard from people like you, that not just access to capital or technical skills, but also access to mentors and true, like, leading you along the way. Especially, I mean, if you think about a lot of founders, maybe they grew up with it. It's easier to make connections. It's easier, just your natural resource connections. And so just that mentor piece is really missing for underrepresented founders. So I know that that is a huge part. So it's so exciting. From my perspective, I see it feels like Birmingham is very supporting of entrepreneurs and all entrepreneurs, but I love to hear from your perspective that people really are stepping up and wanting to mentor despite having full plates, but seeing this opportunity and really stepping in and wanting to make our ecosystem better and a more representative of what our city really looks like. So it's really exciting to watch from my perspective.
Definitely. And I would always
Um,
see more, but I've been really encouraged by what we've had to this point. And while we focus this first cohort on Alabama and most of our companies were in or moving to Birmingham, we actually will be recruiting companies throughout the Southeast in the future. So we're really looking forward to not only bring more companies to experience that ecosystem in Birmingham, but also to expand our mentor and investor network outside of the state as well, to connect our companies here to those external folks that could be of value as well.
Well, and I have to think, one advantage of COVID for that piece of the puzzle is that now being mentored by somebody in Atlanta or South Carolina is very easy and feels very manageable, where before it probably would have been like, oh, we're not going to have a good relationship. But now computer relationships are about all we got. So
Exactly. It's had a lot of silver linings. So we were, before COVID, all Gener8tor programs were in person.
yeah.
We started after COVID, obviously, so we have been entirely virtual. And I think across the board, we've talked as a Gener8tor team before, there's a lot of things that it's allowed us to do that we're going to try to hang on to, even when we do want to be back in person for certain parts of the program. So specifically for our program at Bronze Valley, it is going to be helpful in that we are serving this broader region of the Southeast. We can, it's a lot easier to have conversations and recruit when people are used to doing that via Zoom, instead of having to convince someone, that it's valuable when it's on video or driving across the country. So that will work. But also, that mentor and investor piece. So when we did our investor pitch week for this accelerator, the week before Thanksgiving, we had 30, our company's pitches to 30 independent investors or accelerators over 1 week. And it was as smooth as you could make it. So I was reflecting with our team afterward, and they were talking about how they used to do it in person. And I was trying to imagine doing those investor pitches in person, the logistics, but also maybe a third were from Birmingham, and wouldn't have been able to access all these investors throughout the Southeast as easily of the technological transition.
Yeah. So there is some good.
Yeah.
There have been some benefits, yeah. Well, so tell me what these companies, there were 5 in this cohort, and most of them were from Birmingham or Alabama, is that right?
Yeah, so they were 4 from Birmingham, and then Acclimate moved from Huntsville. They opened a Birmingham office during the program, or just right after. So they're now a Birmingham company as well.
That's awesome. Well, so what was the experience like for them? Had they interacted with this many people before, mentors, investors? Like what kind of perspective did they gain after going through this program?
It really ranges. So because we are pretty tailored in our support, that means we have folks they've just kind of launched a beta and they're just starting to expose their brand to the community, to those who have a existing, strong, recognizable brand, recurring revenue, and have been through other accelerators and gotten a lot of similar kind of connections throughout the community. So because it's so broad like that, some of the things that they all experience, one, we're going to be making sure that they have a solid pitch and executive summary by the end of the program. So some come in with those things or a version of those things. And so we're refining, tweaking, giving feedback. But those are things that we're going to work on together throughout the time, as well as some lunch and learn curriculum that covers everything from revenue models to how to get into an accelerator to, learning VC math and how to evaluate your proportion of equity you're giving away for what dollar amount and things like that. So there's those typical accelerator things. What it looks like in the first 6 weeks that we're together is we have 2 one-on-one meetings a week with our team and then the founding team, usually, a founder or 2 or 3. And then we are looking primarily over those week over week, how can we accelerate your growth in this 6 weeks? So we want to see 20% growth month over month. So let's see what can we grow 5% this week? Sometimes that's revenue. Some companies are pre-revenue, or there's other considerations. So we have a number of different metrics that we're looking to grow, whether that's signups or users on the platform, if that's a thing, the number of demos they've had with customers. So we're working on making those active growth strategies for those 6 weeks. So that's what they're working on. For some, that was talking to users and getting feedback to think about how they might make their first MVP at the early stage. For another, that is getting customers to sign on to an upcoming event that they had to generate revenue for that next month. So wide range, but we're focused on growth and getting them with some solid materials by the end.
Yep. So I just keep thinking about the people who are listening to this podcast, some entrepreneurs, business owners, people thinking about starting a business, but they're not all tech. They're not all like high growth that venture capital is looking for. But they still, one, might need to raise money, or two, they still want to grow. So their business, they want to support their family, lifestyle maybe. And so starting a business, growing your business is going to look a little bit different than being in an accelerator program, but still the same principles apply. So for people who are listening, who maybe are not a fit for a tech accelerator program or ever really an accelerator program, but still want to grow their business, what are some takeaways that are just universal to business growth that y'all have seen through your cohort this time?
Yeah, I would say something that is pretty standard for accelerators, but is just valuable, I think, for anyone, is something some founders can be resistant to at times, but is talk to everyone. So essentially networking and accepting meetings. For instance, this week, Gener8tor wide, we're doing the lightning round sessions where we have over 800 companies who have applied, over 80 accelerators, and we're matchmaking and having them pitch to one another. And we have some folks coming back and saying, declining meetings, like, I don't know if this is a fit for us, but we tell them, hey, this accelerator picked you. They want to talk to you. So even though if you don't see the fit, talk to them, because some of them have investment arms that might have a focus that's not a fit for the accelerator, but you would be a fit for their investment arm, or opportunities that we've seen happen where, Kim isn't recruiting you for Forge, you're not a good fit there, but Kim's an angel investor and is interested in what you're doing. And so that opportunity to talk has other things that you don't know about. So I can see a lot of folks, understandably, when you're starting a business, you're so busy, you're trying to grow your business, it's a lot going on. And so it's like, why do you want to meet with me? I don't know. But having those conversations, and really so much business comes down to relationships, as hard as that is to codify and put in a business plan. But so the more that you're building that out is really important. So I think that's a huge piece, engaging in the community, whatever that is, if that's, logistics, what is the logistics organization in town to be a part of, and just building those relationships.
Right.
That's one. Kind of on the opposite side of relationships, what I think is really important, and especially a value when you're looking to raise money, whether that be through venture capital or getting a loan.
The bank.
From both sides, is data and knowing your business. So knowing, hopefully, all the high level things, like how much revenue you're creating, how much debt you have, any of those things. But then how much does it cost you to get each customer? Is it, $10 or $3,000 to acquire one? And that can vary by industry, and takes some math to kind of figure out, but there are some great tools out there to do that. How long does it take for, someone out in the community to become a customer? What are those pathways for someone to engage with you? Again, these can look very different depending on your industry, but becoming very familiar with those, and also being able to demonstrate how are we doing over time. And so understandably, I think a lot of folks, especially startup founders, are hesitant to share some of those numbers because they're not as high as they want them to be. But
Right.
what we look for as accelerators, as venture capitalists, and other investors are, okay, maybe you had 10 users last month, but now you're at 20, and that's 100% growth,
Yeah.
and that's really good. So being able to show that over time, even if it doesn't look great now, but you're wanting to be able to track how it changed, because maybe like 10,000 users looks good, but if it was 20,000 last month, that's not good. And so having that tracking over time, following your data and understanding it is really important and valuable, and I think can be helpful regardless of your industry.
Yeah, it's all, I mean, it's still starting a business. Like it may, you may have different end results or different desires why you wanted to start one, but it's still, I remember when I started Forge, that was one of my biggest goals, is just to talk to everybody. Partly, I mean, one, to meet people, but also I didn't want to start something that everybody thought was a terrible idea and saw all the roadblocks. And I just didn't, like I didn't want to be totally missing something, but yeah, just talking to everybody.
Yeah. And that reminds me, one of our Gener8tor um, slogans, I guess. It's probably like a pop culture thing, and I don't know it because I don't know pop culture. I think someone said it's like a Pitbull quote, so I don't quote me.
Oh,
But is ask for money, get advice. Ask for advice, get money twice. And so,
oh,
I think in the accelerator VC world, there can be founders or whoever that come up and, they're like, hey, we're raising this much, this is how much money they need. And if you're not responsive, I'm like, yeah, here's a check. They're like, fine, I'm over it. But we advise our founders always to say, hey, I want advice. How can you help me avoid these pitfalls? And do you think it's a terrible idea? Let me learn, be
yeah,
eager to learn. And then they're like, oh, this person's coachable. I like them. Great. They're taking my advice. Maybe I do want to invest. I have
right.
one example. I was catching up with our founders yesterday, and one was sharing that they had someone connect them to a business partner that they didn't really know yet, and so they were on the call, and this person was like, why did they want us to meet? And they were starting to tell them about their business, and they were like, oh, so this is a money thing. And the founder said, no, actually, we'd like your advice. And then the person really warmed up and had a ton of great feedback, and then connected with them to other folks later on and expressed interest in potentially investing. So that's a huge win for us in terms of like always approaching that as being eager to learn and asking for advice and building those relationships first
Yeah,
before moving to, here's our raise.
that's right. And, I mean, we've got so many unbelievable business leaders here who are so smart and have done so much. And so just have so much advice and wisdom to give. So setting people up with that is a huge advantage.
Absolutely.
Okay, so one more question about the importance of Gener8tor and what it can do for our city. And we've talked about, you and I have talked about this, but I would love just to hear your opinion, have you share your opinion about this, because right now in Birmingham, there is a lot of talk about building our ecosystem or having accelerator programs and having deal flows and bringing money in. So can you just share with us just a little bit about why it is so great for the city to have a company that really succeeds? Like what that means for our city to have these deal flows and money flowing through.
Absolutely. So one, you think about some of the examples that have done really well in Birmingham. Probably the most recognizable in the last couple of years is Shift. I cannot tell you how many folks have not only started their career there and grown and been able to really grow and stay in Birmingham, which can be a challenge to retain that great talent, but also started their own entrepreneurial ventures and creating more jobs. And it just has this compounding effect down the road. Another you can think of is Daxco. And I don't think I know a single person in like the tech space in Birmingham who has had a successful career that didn't work at Daxco at some point. You know,
Yeah, I
so it's
agree.
like, oh yeah, so you can just see these ripple effects of and I think it comes down to really strong leaders and mentors, and it's a testament to Dave Gray's work there
Yeah.
to grow just such a strong team that has gone on to do a lot of things. So um, I think that piece in just spawning out other businesses, creating specific, like actual skilled professionals in different areas is really valuable. More related to some of the specific work we're doing with Bronze Valley, as we're working to, again, create a inclusive tech pipeline for both talent and entrepreneurship and capital, seeing successes of folks that look like us are
Hmm.
important, because I think, we have the few success stories that are great, and we'd love to have all of them. But if they all look the same, it doesn't look like something that we can all participate in. And then back to the beginning of the conversation, then we're losing the majority of our talent that
Right.
is Black or female potential founders or technologists that aren't at the table because they haven't seen themselves be successful. So I think specifically as we have our focus on these underrepresented founders with the Bronze Valley Accelerator, to see them be successful helps more people in our community see the opportunity there and hopefully pursue it and have those other top ideas that are successful down the road.
Yeah. And I mean, even I was just thinking, like, if you think about, especially with Daxco, the effect that Daxco has had on our city and our tech community, and then in turn how our city's grown and the money that's coming in and available because people have great jobs.
Mm-hmm.
But if you think about that with diverse founders, like just thinking about the communities that could even be changed, because they're gonna, you know, know people who they want to bring in who may not have gone into Shipped, or had access to jobs at Shipped or Fleetio, or and just the ripple effect on the communities that could be changed because attention is being given and money and support to diverse founders. It's really exciting. I mean, it's really amazing the impact that it could have. I know I asked you the question, but
No,
I get excited about it.
absolutely, 100%. And then those are both kind of internal things, not to mention, which I forget to zoom out and focus on this sometimes. So I have to remind myself, but the perception of our community for other folks. So whether that means potential to attract talent here, or honestly, just pride of the work we have going on here to retain more folks here as we're looking at our next program, which will be a ideation type focused accelerator with HBCUs, reaching out to a lot of these institutions and learning about their alumni. A lot of them are going elsewhere because they have opportunities there. And we, again, are losing some of our best talent because we're not making those pathways and opportunities available here. So on the other side of that, we want to have those success stories. So it's exciting for someone to accept a job and stay here or start
Yeah.
their career here because they see and want to be a part of what's going on here. So yeah, I think we have some of that. We can do more, but we can definitely tell the story better.
Yeah. Okay, so now turning the table just a little bit, I want to hear from you. You have essentially founded this program in Birmingham. I mean, you have the Gener8tor support, you have Bronze Valley, but you are running it and have figured out all the things, all the bumps in the
That's
road.
pretty generous.
Yeah. But what has it been? What has the journey been like? And what has it been like going from being in a team support at Innovate Birmingham, and now you are, I mean, you have a team, you have support, but you are director, you are meeting with people every day. Like, what has that transition been like for you?
I have so much support from the Gener8tor team. So it's hard for me to have the perception that I'm, like kind of out on my own. And I kind of have this unique situation where I have the bonus team of Bronze Valley as well. So
Yeah.
I feel incredibly supported in another of those silver linings of virtual, because I think before virtual, starting a new market was usually kind of a solo venture, but we have been able, I have a Gener8tor team member Zoom into every meeting almost. So
Oh, wow.
it's been really collaborative, really, there's a lot of best practices to lean on. So it hasn't felt too much like starting from scratch. What had, and coming from Innovate Birmingham, I had the opportunity to get to know a lot of at least the Birmingham, Central Alabama ecosystem builders. So it was really just continuing those relationships and sharing about the new things we were doing. Outside of that, starting to learn about what's going on throughout the Southeast. That is not something I had a lot of opportunity to do in my past role. So I am learning about so many cool things that are going on in Huntsville, Mobile, Jackson, Mississippi, Chattanooga. You know, there's just so many great ecosystems and ecosystem builders that I know kind of their equivalent here, and then trying to plug in there and learn those. So I'm still, I guess, like about 3 months in. So I'm still like a sponge, just learning a lot. The VC accelerator space is new to me. So I'm learning what a lot of terms mean and those sort of things. So I see myself more in this role than my past, that I was in like just learning at others' feet versus kind of leading the charge with the Innovate. So yeah, I kind of feel the opposite direction as the way I've transitioned.
Well, so that's great. I think you are not giving yourself enough credit for the work that you're doing, because I know that you took this job right before it got started. So just blazing that trail and getting the program started so fast and getting the great companies in that you did is a lot of work. So I did not prepare you for this question, but so I know you have mentioned briefly like all the things that are going on. You've got new programs launching, you've got something coming up in the summer, all this learning that you're doing, all the excitement. For entrepreneurs, for business owners, it's the same thing. There's so many things. There's so many things to do. You want to implement this, you want to do this, you need to do this. So how do you prioritize things, or how sorry, this is a really hard question, and I'm just asking selfishly because I want to know the answer. But how do you, and I mean, teach your, or not teach, but walk your cohort through these things? Like, there are so many things we can be doing and should be doing, and it feels like we look at others and they're doing all these things. So how do you prioritize your growth and setting your accelerator up when there's, it's like chasing squirrels, like, ooh, I could do that. Ooh, I could do that.
That is a great question, and I'm trying to figure out the right.
Yeah.
I feel I was kind of in a good like cadence before and had my systems. I would use, Asana for some things, and moving to a new. That was one thing about moving to a new organization, is I was so settled in all of my kind of workflows before, and I could create them. So it was, what I like to do. And now I'm coming into someone else's organization and workflow and those sort of things. So that's been interesting to learn. So the logistics of it, I'm still trying to figure out, but a couple things, I still do a decent amount of manual, like writing out my list for the day and thinking through those sort of things. And what I guess it's still being relatively new and not having the framework of what an entire year looks like. I'm kind of like, okay, what does the next cohort look like? And thinking through what do I have to do today? And then what are my longer term plans there? So I would love to say that I'm really strategically prioritizing my reach out communications and something like that. I don't know if I'm there yet, but really thinking through what are going to be the most important. A lot of my day to day is having conversations with folks, building these relationships, and so where are going to be my most impactful connections for the next thing I have on the agenda. So, for example, right now I'm working on recruiting for our G Alpha program with HBCUs across the state that will start in the spring, and so faculty, staff, alumni, students at these institutions are my number one priority. So while I'm digging through all my emails and seeing, things come in that I'm way overdue on getting things to people, if it's from one of those partners, that's kind of where I'm prioritizing. At the same time, trying to automate. This is a hack I got from a podcast I listened to that I've done well in other parts of my life, and I'm trying to get in this new job settled, but automating as much as possible. So setting up my recurring reminders or email, like bounce backs and things like that to make sure that I'm touching base with people that fall off my radar on a regular basis. So that's
good.
When thinking about how I counsel startups, though, it's a little not easier, because I'm sure it's not easy for them. It's easier for me to say, at least.
It's easier.
Is to really strategize around what investors are going to look for. So while they may be really interested in, we really want to get this product feature out, I'm like, okay, but have you, like grown with your customers this week? So that kind of helps me drive that. And I guess I can learn how to apply that type of thinking to my role, but I don't know how to do that yet.
Yeah, but that is, it is good to remember, okay, this may seem really important to you, but is that going to bring revenue? Is that going to bring support? Is that going to grow your customer base? Remembering what's really important besides what seems like important.
Yeah. And this is making me be retrospective and realize how hard it can be for founders. Cause thinking about myself, I'm like, I don't know how to think about that. It's it takes a lot more concerted energy thinking about than it feels like from the outside. So now I'm like, I don't know how to identify if what I do every day is highest and best use of my time, but now I'm going to spend some more time trying to think of that.
Oh, well, sorry. I just added something else to your list.
That's a good weekend activity. That's something I can do, on my walks.
That's right.
A lot of brain, or it takes brain power, but not sitting at the computer all day, which I'm sick of.
Right. Absolutely. Well, thank you so much for sharing. I have a few just rapid fire questions that I love to hear from people. And I know the answers other people like to hear too. So one, really fast, what is one of your favorite business related books? Or, has been most impactful for you?
Trying to think. I'm finishing Lean In right now. Or not Lean In. Not Lean In. Lean Startup.
Lean Start. Okay.
Lean Startup, the Lean Startup right now. That's one of, again, our Gener8tor must reads for getting started. You can tell I'm 3 months in and I still haven't finished it. So I'm
right. But it's a little busy.
Yeah. It's been really helpful digging into just some of the ways to support startups and thinking about how to, again, iterate and test your ideas and be data driven. So that's been helpful in coaching startups. I'm thinking, I'm blanking on all other business books I've read, apparently.
That's so okay. Yeah.
I have a bunch on my desk that I'm looking at that I'm excited about reading soon, but I haven't read any of them yet. Yeah,
but your first gut, that's always good. And what about, do you have any favorite podcasts that you like to listen to?
Many business related.
And guilty pleasure.
My favorite guilty pleasures, I'll start there. That's more fun. I like these masochistic ones that are really emotionally distressing. So one, not distress, that's not the right way. They were actually really encouraging. One is called Terrible Thanks for Asking. It's Nora McInerney's the host, and she had lost her husband and father within a few months, a few years ago. And she started a podcast just talking to people going through some of the worst things in their life and how they were dealing with it and that sort of thing. And it is just so humanizing, and vulnerable. So I really enjoyed it. Similarly, Esther Perel's Where Should We Begin? She's a relational therapist and interviews couples. She records her therapy sessions with couples.
Oh.
It is fascinating. And again, just really interesting to see into people's private lives. I guess especially now when I don't get to see people a whole lot. And so it's very business over a computer screen. So it's very intimate and it's
right
that way.
And it's called Where Should We Weekend? Is that what she said?
Where Should We Begin?
Oh, begin. Where should we begin? Okay, sorry.
Highly recommend. She actually has a new one focused on work relationships called How's Work. And so she interviews co-founders, family businesses, that are owners, couples that have businesses that, make it really difficult to have a normal life together. So that's really interesting on the work side.
Mhm.
Another that I haven't really listened to a lot as in this new role, but in my past role, manager tools was
Oh.
really helpful for me, especially when I first started managing a team. They have a podcast on literally everything related to leadership, performance management,
Oh,
um,
cool.
office culture, literally anything. They're not like, um, I don't know what I'm trying to say there, but they have everything you can imagine. So it's a ton of content, but if you're looking for something specific like giving annual review or firing someone, I mean, they have it literally everything. So
Everything. Oh,
that was
wow.
managing.
Yeah.
I'm realizing my
Well,
rapid fires are not very rapid. I'm
that's
sorry.
okay. I love it. I love hearing from other people. Well, thank you so much, Haley. Thank you for joining us today. And really, thank you for the work that you're doing with the Accelerator program. From the outside, it is great to watch the impact that you could have on the city and are having on the city is just really exciting. So thank you for that work. And also thank you to Forge, who brought us this podcast today. If you are tired of working from home and looking for a professional place to get work done, Forge is your solution. You can visit workatforge.com to schedule your tour today.